Welcome everybody again to my Astro Dude YouTube channel. My name is Mitch, and this is part 2 of the Astro Pixel processing software by Aries Production, of which the designer and maker is Nebula. So first I want to thank Steve Balke for producing the data set for what will be the word? Providing it. So he has sent me the Bubble Nebula NGC 7635. So it's obviously in this case it's going to be 3 filters. There's going to be hydrogen alpha, O3, and sulfur. And it's not that many files. So you can see here there's 9, and so on and so forth. So being part 2, let's see if we can do load all these files, calibrate them, do the analyzation of the stars, then register them, and finally normalize the intensities and integrate them. There's been a few people who've tried this program out and they're having some difficulties. Things are not turning out exactly as expected. Our expectations are always high, but sometimes there's something missing, a small setting, or forgetting just to check a little thing. So let me see if I can go through this for Steve using his data set. So it's SHO, so we have to choose multi-channel filter processing, and APP will auto-detect masters or any type of integrations that were done ahead of time. In this case, they're all individual files. So let's start with the lights first, but make sure it's multi-channel because it is a form of LRGB SHO. So let's look at the lights. So Bubble Nebula, let's start with hydrogen alpha. Select all, open, and hydrogen alpha. Lights, up, O3, oxygen 3. Lights, sulfur, excuse me, and sulfur 2. That takes care of all the light frames coming off the filter wheel. Now we'll need matching flats. Sorry, I went too far. Flats of HA. So let's select all. They are hydrogen alpha flats. Again, up 1, O3, flats, oxygen 3. And one last time for sulfur. Select all. And make sure we say it's sulfur 2. Scroll down a bit. Let's get the darks. Most darks can apply to all channels. He's got a few darks here. And all channels. Because they can be applied, and they will be applied to both SHO. We have no master flat, master dark, or master bias. Oh, excuse me. Okay, so that's good. Everything is loaded. And if we scroll up here, it's all here. Hasn't been selected yet, but hopefully it will be. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. There we go. If this is unselected as none, none will show. But if it's all will show. And I've been experimenting with this. For example, sometimes you want to clean all the darks. So you go none, clean, and always have this on all to show all. All right, let's carry on, and I'm gonna pause here in between the processing because it takes a lot of time sometimes. So we've loaded them. Step 2, calibration. So master bias, there's none, we'll skip. Master dark flat, there's none, we'll skip. Master dark, there is. Sorry, this says scale master dark. So I'm just going to keep on. Master flat will be average, sigma clipping, 3 and 1. I guess we're going to, sorry, I was reading it wrong. Just here, master dark, it is average. Instead of no rejection, sigma. That's really important. Because we only have darks and flats, you see here, master flat, average, sigma. If there was like 50, we would go Windsorized, but it's sigma clipping. Good. Okay, no, we're not going to create any rejection, but on the bad pixel math, the recommendation was 30% and kappa 3, but some people use 2.5. We're going to leave it at 3 for the hypercam. Now, this and this is always unchecked. So, Steve mentioned that he did select adaptive pedestal to reduce the amp glow, so it's check marked. And also create a bad pixel map to remove the black clipping from the amp glow also, and the cold pixels, whatever white pixels there are on the image. And without me complicating things, we're just going to leave it at that. So create a bad pixel map so that it can be subtracted from the darks. Create the master bias. There won't be one, but there'll be a master dark, master flat. Make sure the adaptive pedestal to reduce the amp glow and the starburst for those hypercam users. And if you want, you could uncheck calibrate warnings, because there will be warnings about the fact that master bias files are missing and master dark flats. So create masters and assign to light. Here we go. Now I'll be right back. Okay, so that went pretty good. Let's have a look. In the folder, APP created a master flat for sulfur, a master flat for hydrogen, a master flat for oxygen. It also made the master dark file for all channels and the bad pixel map, which is excellent. Minimize. Now that we've calibrated these images, let's go to step 3, which is analyze stars. Now here's where the trouble is. By default, when you open this up the very first time, star detection is sometimes a problem. It certainly is in PixInsight when the ADUs are too low. And in here you can reduce the kappa level to detect stars at a certain threshold level. So what you want to do is increase the amount of search area, and I'm probably not using the right word, as Nebula would say, but the idea is there. So automatic minimum number of stars find, at least 500 detection. Automatic maximum number of star target is, looks like 1,000, but detect above the noise threshold. Some stars are very faint, and if you're shooting in Sequence Generator Pro and your ADU is about 60 or 55 or 50, you're going to take that kappa and bring it right down to 003, so you don't get these errors, no stars found, or unable to analyze stars. Okay, so let's go. I'm going to push the button for analyze stars. Make sure kappa is at the very bottom to give Astro Pixel processor the opportunity to find as many stars to analyze, so later it can register them. So here we go. Analyze stars. Hopefully this will work. %, and that was a big bell. There's an alarm goes off, scares me every time. Let's have a look and see what APP did. So number of stars vary from 360 to 772 on the best frames, probably having the highest signal to noise ratio. We also have a full width half maximum of 403 on that frame, and a score of 652, with some as low as 139, some of the hundreds, some of the 200s, a couple 339, but 652, this being the best frame. Astro Pixel processor automatically decided to choose this as the reference frame based on the number of stars and the full width half maximum and the quality. So we're going to leave it at that. even though a person could choose their own. So let's go to register. Scroll up. Do we want to set the reference? No, we do not, because the program did a much better at choosing the proper frame based on the values available. Same camera and optics. Yes, it was the same camera that he used. It was the same telescope. No need to touch this. And since we're not doing a mosaic, you don't have to use any dynamic distortion. And registration is normal. Let's see if we can start registration of the files, and I'll be back. So the files are registered. Let's have a look. Scroll over. And if we look at the hydrogen alpha, it says that there was a master dark applied to it. A master flat was applied to it. We're right here. There was a bad pixel map created, which was used under the algorithm of calibration. There was analyze the stars, as you can see where my cursor is, and all the files have been registered. So CA star reg. Next, we want to normalize those under step 5. So we're good here. Go to the nice little tab that says normalize. I don't change anything here. Everything is default. So let's analyze, and neutralize background is checkmarked. So let's see if we can normalize these files. So that's done. Let's have a look. Yeah, let's check the file that I always do. So hydrogen alpha, light frame number 2, calibrated, and we did the star, registered. Now they're normalized. Perfect. So let's lower that down a bit. There we go. And of course, finally, once we've done those 5 steps, we need to integrate them. Again, there's some things we have to look at here. Integrate per channel because it's SHO. Stack all 28 frames. I'm not going to touch any of this. Equal, average, full. Now, LNC is set by default to none. I think this may be 1. But let's set that to the 2nd degree and 3, which I've seen other videos that I'm learning, that this will improve. You can hover over this, it's a long explanation, but it will cover the illumination in your frames in such a manner that the illumination differences of the separate frames you stack will be matched locally instead of globally. So nothing wrong with that. You can experiment with LNC 2nd, 4th, 6th level. I tried 2nd, it seemed to work fine. If you enable multi-band blending, the program is so smart it'll figure out whether it's needed or not, but normally this is unchecked and it's set at 5%. But I wanted to try, is there any harm in setting this blending to 10%, which you can see it right here, and it's fine. Next, filters. Normally I believe it's no rejection, but we want sigma clipping over all frames. Kappa 3, iterations 1. If you want, you can go do it 2 or 3 times. I don't seem to have any problem with 2, with 1. And I haven't experimented with diffraction protection. Now, I was getting rings around circles. Later I'll test and see if I could set this to a higher level. And I'm just going to hover over here for 1 second, see what it says. This is a new concept to propose to prevent rejection artifacts at the star borders. So earlier I did notice there was some. You can leave this function displayed to be setting to none. Any other settings will enable this feature on all filters. So I'm just going to try 1, and maybe later I can practice if we get better, maybe 2 or 3 to remove that ring around the oxygen 3 filter, which there's always a halo around the stars. I'm hoping that 1 will help that, and I'll show you what I mean later on as we finish Steve's data set. So I'm not creating drizzles, I'm not creating outliers, I'm not going to create any of that. The filters, I'm not touching it. This is all default, and projection is whatever it is, rectilinear projection. Let's integrate these files. This will take a bit. Coming up on 85%. 91. Done. Okay. So we are fully integrated. Let's have a look. So we have a fully integrated sulfur frame. The hydrogen alpha is now done in oxygen 3. So 1, 2, 3, those frames have been completed. Now, I was wondering about something the other day. If we go back to load and we scroll down and we go to the master flat and say remove them, so they're gone. And let's get rid of the master dark, because technically we don't do that. Don't forget to put all again. The pixel math, we can say clean it back to 0. Always remember to put this back on all. So it's none, 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 18 flats, all, clean, all. Let's scroll up and see what's left. So there are some darks and some lights left. Let's go down. Okay, so dark says 8. Remove all, clean it, put it back on. Let's go see. They're all gone, and all that's left is the calibrated 28 frames. Hopefully that won't remove our integrated frames, but again, I think you can hit clean. Remove all and put it back on, and we should have just a few frames left. Yes, our finalized SHO. Absolutely perfect. So now there's just those 3 left in our window. Back to the final tab of tools. Now, before we do anything else, let's put this at LCR or LC. Yeah, let's put this on LCR. In other words, linear calibrated and registered. Let's double click on sulfur, because that's how you bring it to the main window. You double click down here. So I'll double click. Excuse me. Man, my throat. Give it a second. Okay, so there it is. I am going to stretch it a little bit to see what we have. 132. Okay, so there's the sulfur. Actually, there's a lot of sulfur there. This could be almost empty, but it's good. Point 1. Point 2, the huge starburst, which is horrible on 5-minute subs or 3-minute subs on the hypercams, completely gone. The bottom here left, the bright white amp glow, it's totally gone. Okay, reset this. Let's go to our oxygen 3. Give it a second. Okay, so O3, double click. That should come up here. I'm going to put this back on linear for a moment because I'm still learning how to use the viewer. Okay, now I'll stretch it a bit. See what's hiding down there. Okay, I stretched just too much. Put that down to 121, and then I'll do something else in a second. That should be a little bit darker now, I hope. A little bit better. So here there's a drop-down menu, so you could try 10%, 15%, 20%. So let me go to the third one, 10% 3 sigma. Let's see if that automatically brings it up a bit. So you're not constantly having to adjust. Okay, so that made it darker. I'm learning. Let's go down a bit to 10% 5 sigma. Okay, that one's even darker. No stretch, data as is. Like I said, I'm going to learn how to use this section here. Okay. Let's see if we can. There has to be one of these default that lets you see the image instantly. And if not, then we will stretch it. Yeah, that's not too bad there. 15% 3, 0 base. I don't want to waste too much time on this. What I was really looking for is how did our frames stack up or register? Looks like it's pretty good. No starburst, no amp glow. You can see the dithering here, but there's your oxygen 3. That's pretty good. And finally, let's open up the hydrogen alpha, which will probably turn black because this always seems to revert back to default. I will watch more videos, and there she is. So again, let's bring this up a little bit. Maybe 110, 115, or 1.15. This is nothing different than Photoshop's midpoint. You know how you have black, which is here, and white, which is here, and then you set the mid tones. You know how in Pix Insight you grab the histogram and you go to the to the left and just this is all. It's the same principle, but before we continue, and there's a lot of nebulosity here. I mean, it's way up here and way in the top corner there. There's this entire field is covered in nebulosity. I'm going to hit the reset on the black point, which should bring. Well, we'll see what happens to the image. And same with the white. And I'm going to reset the 1.15, see how dark it gets, or darker. That's not too bad. Wish there was a way for me to learn this little guy. I'm just going to start with step 1 here, 10.5 sigma, and see if it makes it dark, or a little bit brighter. If not, I'll learn. Maybe this works in conjunction. Yeah, it's much darker. So this perhaps works in conjunction with other sliders. So I'm going to, once again, I'm just going to bring it up a little bit more, 125. That's a lot. Just to show that the frame is perfectly fine. Yep. So if we can zoom in, there's the bubble. All this whitish gas is nebula way down here. There's a big chunk right here. Yeah, there it is right here, this big chunk right here. And over here, and as I scroll by, you can see some nebula floating by. So nice star cluster down here, which is not far from the not far from the ball. There's a nice cluster down there. So everything looks really good. So we're going to do now is we're going to go to the combine RGB, but since this is SHO, it's still going to be a RGB channeling. And what we're going to do is, I didn't save that image in the background. The reason I didn't save it is because they were just individual files, the individual S, H, and O. So let's add, let's go up, let's add sulfur to red. Scroll up, red. Okay. Add hydrogen to blue. Drop down menu, blue channel. Sorry, guys, we know that's a mistake. Green is hydrogen. Green. And of course, now we know that oxygen 3 will be blue. So where's the oxygen? Right here. This is your RGB. Drop down menu to blue. Okay. And here are the sliders of all 3 channels. I should have renamed these. I'm going to learn how to do that. Actually, we could cancel all this and redo it. But technically here I would have just written down S2. Here I would have wrote down HA. And here O3. But it does say 2 alpha and 3. So we know what it is. So the representation of these sliders is like this. On the red channel, it's 100% right here of sulfur, red. In the green channel, it's 100% of green. If I do this, there's nothing of green. But if I do this, it's 100% green, just like pixel math. And in the blue, which is our O3, 100%, 0%, 100%. So 100 green, 100 red, 100 blue, RGB. By adding percentages to the other colors or to the other channels, you get a different image. Let's click calculate on a standard Hubble palette, And if I'm not mistaken, this should be a light greenish yellow. So calculate these three sliders, which I said 100 to red, 100 to green, and 100 to blue. Let's have a look. All right, we have to stretch that a bit. Maybe 115. A bit more. 128. Boy, I wish I knew more about this program so I could bump up the volume here. Let me try 10% background 3 sigma. It's getting there. How about more? How about 20%? Is it gonna get darker or brighter? Oh, much better. Oh, I'm starting to like this now. So what's next after 23? 23 2.5. Actually, we'll leave it right there. That's fine. Yeah, that's good. It should stay right there. Now, small adjustments on midpoint are going to really make huge changes. So I'm just going to bring it up to maybe 110, 112. Let's see how much of the nebula shows up. Voila. This is your normal pixel math RGB sulfur to hydrogen to oxygen. And you can see here the green, all this green, this is all nebula. We can zoom in a little bit. Click, 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 click. And this can all be dealt with at a later time in another program to create your nice Hubble palette. But since it is what it is, now if you want me right now to go to green, and you know how pixel math in green you say HA plus O3? Well, O3 is blue, right? B, blue. So here, see the blue? Bring it up to 50%. Close. Back off the hydrogen alpha to 50%. Now you have 50, 50, 100, 100. Calculate. So, sorry, 125 is always so much too high. 109. Okay, so unbeknown, I've added some red to this. Trust me, it's there. It's hiding in there. Because in the green channel, I added the blue. And blue and green kind of makes it an odd purple. Excuse me. So you're starting to get the point. So in in red with sulfur, you could have added some more hydrogen or some more oxygen, or some more hydrogen alpha, or yeah, oxygen, O3. In the blue channel, you can add more green, more red, and in the green, you can back off on the green. Like let's say this goes down to 25, and bring the blue up to 75. This is what I like about the sliders. You slide, you calculate, you watch. And you spend an hour here, you'll get a formula you really, really, really like. You take note of these, and that's it from now on. That's what you're always going to get. So, depending on where you slide this, and there's also a magnifier, like a lot of green by 100 times. There's also a background adjuster in the green, a background in the blue, and a background in the red. I'm just talking as to what I see, but I can't prove it. So, because it is what it is. So I'm going to just put back blue. It's at 73 right now. It says 42% total, but I'm going to put this back at 0. See, 0 total. I'm going to put 100% or 100 on green and remake this green palette by recalculating it because I don't want to change the values. Yeah, there's your hot bright. Actually, I didn't mind having the blue at 50. This will be my last attempt. Let's put 50, 50. Let's push the button. Let's create that file. 51, 51. There you go. So recalculate it. Recalculate the color combination. You could do this for hours and hours and hours until you find what you like. And there's no typing anything in pixel math. Whoa, nice blue. Like it. Okay, so now we're going to create that file. So it's combine, right? Well, we want to do something that we'll recognize. How about SHO? Combine. It's okay. And now we can actually cancel this. This file's been created and it's been put off to the side. So we can cancel that. If I slide up a bit, here is SHO combine, and we can open it here to show it in the viewer for those who would want to do more further processing. But my point here for Steve was this. given the settings that I used, the data that he gave me, with the big starburst and all the amp glow, for all intents and those purposes, let me crank this up to maybe 110-ish, all the adaptive data pedestal clipping is, the amp glow is completely gone. And there's a ton of nebula that we didn't see earlier. If we did, it was fairly faint. Now it's just coming out like crazy. You have to also keep in mind that whatever you're going to do here, when you hit save, this is going to be saved. Now, what I like is when you don't adjust it here, you leave it as you created it on this side, which was RGB combined. The information's still here. It's linear. So without making, I'm going to reset that, without making any adjustments, save this file as, and then go to your favorite processing program. I'm going to put a 2 here. In our case, I've been teaching PixInsight, and then work on your Hubble palette from there and use the variants of colors, including Photoshop for your golds, teals, reds, blues, cayenne, cyan, and magentas. So that's about it. Now, at this point, I suppose I could do a little bit more. This is way above and beyond the video now, but I'm already here, and we're only into, what, 30 minutes? Whoops, sorry. Way too much again. It's a very sensitive slider. That's better. So I'm going to calibrate the background. I think it's going to ask me to select some sections. Remember I did this before? So please put 4 boxes. Okay, so background, 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 background. A little bit here, there's a bit here, there's a little bit here. And let's see if we can neutralize that. So calculate the background gradients or some whatever, moon, even though the filters are good. They don't block 110% of the moon, but I'm going to say OK. Make this 3. Well, I could have overwritten that file, but I did go. This is a background calibration, so OK. I'm going to bring that up to 112. Okay, a lot of this is the color that we included, the green and the red, so I think that looks pretty good. It's not your normal, DSLR shot of the Milky Way. And then I'm going to try to calibrate the colors, because normally when you do SHO, your stars have a nice magenta ring around them. And so please make a selection. Now, here's what I did the other day. I didn't know. I think I watched Nebula do that. He selected the frame, so all stars are included, and calculate the star brightness, not brightness, but their values in terms of RGB, so that they don't end up being, pink or blue or green. It should be a nice white. Takes a few minutes. Again, there's the chart we showed earlier. And I wish I completely understood the chart, and I'm sure that if it says calibrated stars was 320, the population is 329 of all these frames, and this bottom chart looks like it represents green and red. This is green and red, and there's green, red, and blue and red. So, so what we want to do is save that. I'm going to overwrite that file. So it fits. That should remove the little boxes. We should go back to full screen. And if we zoom in, there shouldn't be any. Oh, the stars are perfectly white. Perfectly white. There's nothing wrong with that. There we go. And at this point, now if you want to save it, it'll save you the trouble of removing those magenta stars in another program such as Photoshop or PixInsight. So I'm going to leave it like this. Everything's nice. There's not much I can do down here except if I wanted to add some contrast and some sharpness, and of course protecting the star. Now let me see if I can show the protective star what it does. It looks like they've done a really good job. When I selected the halo levels, level 1, I can't remember exactly which page I was on. Could have been under the registration. But normally when I did it, the other one for Steve, there was big black rings all around from the 03. They're gone. And it may have been It may have been here when we were selecting one of these when we were calibrating or when we were integrating. You know, there might have been one thing that I changed that really helped. So it could be the LNC or something else. Whatever it is, I'm glad I did it. And I'll review my video and then take note of that. So okay, back to tools. So back. Skip to scale. All right, that's good. So that's it. Don't have to correct anything yet. I don't see any light pollution. We've calibrated the background, calibrated the star, and now it's just a matter of if you could do a little sharpening and a little contrast, but to me this completes this this video. So I'm just going to save that file in real time now because this is linear. I'm going to change this to I'm going to stop right there, get rid of this. So this is SHO combined RGB underscore STV for Steve's, and of course it's the bubble, but I think it was like 7380. I can't even remember the name of the file. I'm just going to put that down. I'll fix it later. Just to say okay, and I'm going to go okay. It's going to be a fits, and I'm going to save it again, and I'm going to remove this again. Underscore. I think I said 7380, right? Underscore Steve. Yes. This time I want a fits that's usable to play with, and it's Photoshop RGB, 16-bit. Okay, saved and done. And to prove that, I will minimize this. And there's the console that always runs in the background if you wish to follow along. I'm going to bring this up. Go to the Steve TIFF, open it up. And if it's pitch black, it's because it's not stretched, but there it is, and it is stretched. Okay, so, and of course, this program, EarthInView, does not do a good job at showing images. It actually kind of ruins them when it opens them up. But here's all the work that we did in the last hour. There's a bunch here that let me just open the one that I did here, which is, I think it's 70 some odd meg. Could be even more. 60 meg. No, that's much smoother. So there it is. That's it. From here, you would go to your next program, open up some of these fits files and work on them. Of course, if you go to Photoshop, you'll need to convert the fits to a TIFF 16-bit. Let me just look at the size. 121 meg. Some of these are 242 meg, being fully linear and saved partially stretched. I'm done. Let's go back here. It's always a smaller window. So that's it. Back to the first. Everything's been cleaned out except for these. I can remove all clean. And at the bottom, clear all. Are you sure? There'll be nothing left on the bottom. All right, let's open it up. Blank. This is the end of this tutorial. This actually was a tutorial, wasn't it, on the Astro Pixel processor, the latest version of 1069 by Aries Production. The designer creator Nebula Haverkamp's doing a really good job. He's just starting. This program is not even a year old, if that, in the Netherlands and Britain, but now it's coming over to the United States, Canada, and whoever else is using it here in the West. And I'm having fun. It just gets better and better and better. And yes, I understand there's a lot to learn about the post. Pre is pretty easy. Pre-processing, it's tab 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 9. But then there's on the right-hand side, you have a lot of powerful work. And I'm going to review a couple of videos from him. Maybe I'll practice on a Galaxy so you can see what you can actually do without leaving the program at all. It'll be a one and for all program, and it doesn't push over PixInsight or Photoshop or GIMP or Nebulosity or Deep Sky Stacker. It's not that. These guys are all working. They have one purpose. All these companies, well, some make money. Like, it costs PixInsight, it was in the hundreds and hundreds of dollars. This is $75 a year if you're Canadian. You can rent it. And the point is that they all have one purpose, and that's to create the best possible image. And I'll quote a friend of mine, garbage in, garbage out. But you put in good data, good darks, good flats, good bias, good master flats, you're going to have great images. There's good images and there's great images. Question is, are we willing to spend the time to do some bias for 5 minutes? 100 bias. It's free. We're already set up. Flats, they're there. Let's make some. 60 flats. The more flats, the better. It averages out the intensity of the flat, the flux. Darks, make them right after you've done your lights. If it's 2 o'clock in the morning and you've already done 100 lights, then put the cap on and put a tarp over it. Make sure it's pitch dark. Don't change nothing. Don't change the gain, the offset, the exposure. Just do 50 darks, 60. Some people do 10 or 12. I don't recommend that. I've heard some people doing too many, like 100 darks. Not going to help. But it's 40 to 60. I shoot 50. And the darks look after a lot of the problems with noise and flares and amp glow. You want to subtract that out of the image. And then later I'll study more about the master bias, even the super bias in PixInsight, how it helps the flats. More fixed pattern noise and more random noise can be removed. That's it. So thank you for watching, Steve. I hope this helped. As you can see, I finished your file and it was completely clean. It's really sharp. There's tons of data. There was no streaking. The registration went well. Everything went actually very well. I'm really happy with that. Thank you, Steve Balke. Don't forget to subscribe. Hit the little bell to receive update information as I put out more videos. Those who are new have gone through all my first 12 series. Now you can practice with the intermediate series. I have more videos again coming this week. This is 2. Now hopefully I have 2 more. We're going to cover, somebody asked me, how did you get to where you got with your IC 1848, the Soul Nebula? Why don't we bring that up so that you guys, who are some of you watching for the first time, but how did you get to, can you show us how you got to IC 184, that frame? It's just this baby right here. So how did you get to that, to this point? This is a pretty noisy one. So I was going to think, well, okay, I'll open up PixInsight. I'll fire up the hydrogen alpha, the O3, and the sulfur, just the 3 files, and an hour and a half later, you'll see the 25 steps it took me to get to this beautiful gold teal. And this is a horrible rendition of that image. Oh my goodness. I don't think I have anything else that I can show that looks better here, but now these are the individual files. So, and these are fits, so you actually don't see them. So that will be another video I'm going to work on. Another thing that I've noticed is that what opens my programs here, OrphanView, cannot handle some fits file. By the way, that's a very small section of the little guy on top. There's also the pillar. There's the pillar. Let me make it a little bit smaller. Go. There's a little running man. So there we go. These 2 guys. I also have the little little rock on the side there, which shows up out of the entire image. So let's see if I can show you guys how I got here using 14 hours of SHO on 3 filters and the procedure in PixInsight. And it's quite complicated to produce this teal gold image. Hopefully you enjoy it, and I'll see you then. Thank you for watching, and please come back again. And don't forget to try out Astro Pixel Processor. It's free for 30 days. And do the best that you can and try to enjoy it, because it's all about fun. It's just a hobby. All right. Goodbye for now.